Well, here we are. We are 18 months into the presidency of Joseph Biden. We have record high crime, inflation, gas prices. We've seen food shortages in a manner already that I never thought we'd see here. We have an attempted murder, let's call it what it is, on a conservative based Supreme Court justice, although I don't believe that justices should be considered conservative or liberal. They should just be considered justices. Unfortunately, the political process has kind of forced them to take a stance one way or the other on that. Now, I'm not going to get into the morality of the judgments they're going to be handing down, be it about the Second Amendment or Roe v. Wade. Anybody that knows me, and if you do, that's probably why you're watching this video, knows pretty much where I stand on all those things. But that's not what this is about. Folks, we've got to make some changes. We have to stop demonizing the other side of the aisle, be that liberal or extreme left or extreme right or in the middle. But more importantly, we need to eliminate the extreme right and extreme left. Everybody deserves a voice. Everybody should get to say what they want to say. I am a freedom of speech absolutist. I believe that if you say something that pisses me off, I can tell you that it pisses me off, but that doesn't take away your right to say it. The problem is that the extremes have gotten so extreme that there's no way to reconcile the differences anymore. I honestly believe that up until 15 years ago, maybe not even that long, we as a people had two different political groups. We had the Democrats and the Republicans, and they both basically wanted what was best for the country, and they had different ideas on how to get us there. That's not the case anymore. And this is not an attack. This is just the truth. The left has become much more extreme. I know a lot of people that vote Democrat that are not extreme and think that a lot of the extreme left things are stupid. They think that talking to children at the age of 6 or 7 about transgendering is ridiculous, that it's inappropriate. They think that people have the right to own guns. They think that we need a free and fair economy and a free and fair justice system. That being said, the Democratic Party as a whole is drifting further and further to the left. I am a middle-of-the-road Republican. I always have been. I always will be. But I haven't changed my views. My views are the same views that I had when I was 20 and the same views I had when I was 25. And before you say, well, you'd never vote for a Democrat, that's not true. I actually have voted for Democrats because I thought they would be better for the job. And that's what we need to start doing. We need to start picking the people that we think are good for the job. We need to stop voting just along party line. Because if we continue down this course, we're going to reach a point where we do not have a country to save anymore. I think that the next couple of years are going to be some of the toughest years in the history of this country. I think that we face a very real risk of falling into not just recession, but depression. I think people are going to learn some very hard truths about what is an inconvenience and what is a crisis. I think that in the long term, I think that that will be good for our country. We have become complacent and weak. We don't know how to suffer. We don't know how to determine the difference between what we want and what we need anymore. And I think that painful lessons always come to those who don't know the difference. I think that we have become so wrapped up in our social issues that we've forgotten the importance of the major issues. Now, that being said, people on both sides care about social issues. And I genuinely believe that 95, 99% of the people in this country, when they see a real injustice, they want to right that injustice. I think that that's inherent in our DNA. I think that the American DNA expects, and more than that, demands a fair deal. We demand fairness. But what you're seeing and the demands that we're getting from the extreme, especially the extreme left, and let's be honest, it is mostly the extreme left, are not demands for equality. They are demands for preferential treatment in everything: law, tax, justice program, welfare programs, everything. People think that because they are from a certain subcross section of minority, that they are either worth more or deserve more than someone who is not. And that's not right. That being said, there are always going to be racist assholes in the world. Let's just be honest. There's always going to be that. But the narrative that the entire country is that way is both incorrect and disgusting. We've got to stop listening to the people telling us to hate each other. I have neighbors from all different backgrounds all around me, and I get along with all of them. And the reason for that is because we actually have a community here. There's a community here that will help each other, that we had people come say hello to us when we moved here. And there's a man across the street that I help with his heavy lifting because he's older. And we've lost that as a society. We don't have community anymore. We all sit in our little bubble and we read or listen to an echo chamber that tells us we're right and tells us that anyone else that disagrees with us is evil or wrong. We've lost the ability to have a civilized and intelligent discourse on the major problems that we face. And if we don't find a way to do that again, like I said before, we're not going to have a country left to save. It became startlingly clear to me how far we'd gone to extremism when we had people breaking the law by going to a justice's house to protest. That's against the law. There are several sections of code that actually state that that is against the law, because when you go to a person's home, you're intimidating them. Intimidating a justice or a judge is against the law. Protesting outside of their place of business is perfectly fine. You have the right to state your opinion on a big sign or scream it at them or whatever you want to do. That's called freedom of speech, and I support that, again, like I said before. But you don't go to their home. You don't go to the place where their children sleep and scream that if Roe v. Wade isn't safe, then neither are you. And now maybe that threat is not real. Maybe that threat is just a threat. It's just something to get their attention. But regardless, we cannot continue to behave that way. The January 6th rioters deserve a fair trial. They haven't been given one. They've been held without trial for 18 months at this point. That's wrong. Now, if they are given a fair trial and they are convicted of doing something wrong, then they should serve their time and go on, because, quite frankly, breaking into the Capitol is stupid. But the lack of concern that was shown by the mainstream media, the White House, everyone, about a man taking a loaded gun, a crowbar, a pepper spray, and some other tools of entry for a home to Justice Kavanaugh's house, and being apprehended after calling and confessing that he was going to go there and kill Justice Kavanaugh. He called 911 and said, "I'm going to kill Kavanaugh because he is going to deliver conservative rulings, and I feel like that will give my life meaning." That's disgusting. We have got to change the way we treat each other in this country. We've got to find a way to have a discourse again. But more importantly, we have to stop listening to mainstream media. We have to stop listening to people telling us that it's okay for one side to behave one way and not the other. That's not fair. That's not correct. Both behaviors are bad. But when only one side is punished, you are creating an injustice, and you're also creating a system that is fine with zero accountability on one side and an extreme, almost made up accountability on the other. I have been accused of being things that I am not simply because I disagreed with what someone said. In this country, one of the most vile things you can do is call someone a racist. Now, again, there's always going to be that unfortunate minority that are really racist. But when you call someone who is not a racist, it's one of the most vile insults you can label on somebody, you can put on somebody. And when you do that, especially if they're not, you take away the meaning of that word. You take away the severity of that word and what it does mean. I'm going to give you an example. When Donald Trump won the election in 2016, some of us were happy, some of us were sad, some of us were like, I was one of those people. I was glad Obama was out of office, and I voted for him the first time. Some people immediately jumped to the fact that because Trump won, it was a referendum on black presidents. It had nothing to do with the race of the presidents. People didn't like seeing Obama apologize to foreign countries about how awesome the USA was. People didn't like Obama not backing up the police and the National Guard in the Ferguson riots. We've got to stop separating ourselves into these stupid little subcategories. We've got to stop treating each other as enemies. But more than that, we have to have an accountability system that applies to everyone. If we can't find a way to do that, I don't see what hope we have. I encourage people to try to break out of their bubble. Talk to people that you normally wouldn't have a political conversation with. Now, if it starts to get ugly, obviously, pick your time, your place, and if it starts to get ugly, you don't have to talk about it anymore. One of my best friends, me and him, we disagree on pretty much everything politically, almost all of it. But we can have a conversation and understand where the other side's coming from. We have to find a way to do that as a nation. That being said, the current gun grab laws, the changes in what we believe are inalienable rights, that can't happen. We have to start punishing the bad people and not the good people who share appliance in common with the bad people. Guns can be deadly. They're supposed to be. That's the point. But they're only supposed to be deadly when you're hunting or defending your life or your property. And for most people, that's what they are. None of the laws being put forth by either side would have stopped what happened in Uvalde. That's just the sad truth of the matter. And no gun bill that they put forth, even if it passes, is going to stop the next mass shooting because there are upwards of 300 million guns in this country. And even if you pass that law, you're not going to be able to enforce it. What we have to do is start looking at what causes the shootings to begin with. We have to start looking at why are these people doing this? Part of it's the breakdown of the family. I don't necessarily adhere to the construct that you have to have a mom and a dad. I think you have to have good parents. I don't think it really matters. Now, that being said, I do think that especially boys need a positive male role model. But that doesn't necessarily mean that two girls can't raise a boy to be perfectly fine. I encourage you, if you are in that situation, to expose your child to good male role models. I think that that's important, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a mom and a dad. A good uncle or just a best friend who's a positive male role model can do the same thing. But we need parents that teach accountability. We need parents that teach there is right and wrong, and it's not all shades of gray. There are things that are right and wrong. There are things that are supposed to happen and things that should not happen. And just because you aren't happy doesn't give you the right to do something terrible. The shooter in Uvalde was obviously mentally imbalanced. There's videos of him doing some quite atrocious things that I'm not going to even talk about. He leveled some very ugly threats at some females that he knew. And on top of that, he was being bullied, which is wrong. But hey, you know what? That kid, I got bullied. It happens. Either learn to take it or learn to fight back. Either one of those is acceptable. Shooting your classmates is not. He threw a fit. Unfortunately, it was just a very horrible one. because he wasn't going to graduate. Let's be honest, that's what it was. He was either unwilling he was either unable or unwilling to do the work necessary to graduate. And when he was told he wasn't going to graduate, he lost his composure, he lost his cool. And then when his mother made a remark about he was going to have to start contributing, he killed her. Grandmother, mother, I'm not sure which, I can't remember now. I'm very tired. But all that plays into the fact that we've forgotten who we are as a society. There are some behaviors that should be considered stigmata. We really should. There are some behaviors that shouldn't be accepted by mainstream society, and those people should be shamed. People say don't shame people. Sometimes you should be ashamed. If your behavior is wretched, then you should be ashamed. Burning down a building because you're upset is terrible behavior, and you should be ashamed of yourself. Attacking another person because you don't like the way they look or because you disagree with their political views, that's disgusting, and you should be ashamed. And in my opinion, you have no business being in polite society. You should be completely ostracized from society. That being said, I am willing to have a legitimate conversation with anyone on either side about how we can stop things like Uvalde, how we can stop things like the riots that happened in 2020. What issues do we need to address to make sure that that doesn't happen? But there is a caveat to that. Why are you doing the things you're doing? In the case of George Floyd, a man with an extensive criminal record was inappropriately restrained, and he died, and that should not have happened. I've said many times, I saw the video, I was upset about it. I think that cop should have been charged, and he should have lost his badge, and he should be in jail, and he is in jail. So why were we burning down cities? They're saying that there's this grave injustice. Well, there wasn't an injustice. There was a horrible thing that happened, and then justice was served because that man is now in jail. And yet we still choose to burn down cities. And then we have people that say, you're not going to burn down my home. Those people lose their livelihood. Their guns are taken away when they committed no crime. I'm referring to the people that were in Missouri when they said, no, you're not coming into our property. And they defended their property with firearms. That's a legitimate fear. There were people screaming, we're going to kill your wife and take what's ours. That's a threat. That's a threat to your life. You have the right to defend yourself against behavior like that. We've got to find a way, people. We've got to find a way to get back to common ground. But the first thing that you have to do, and then again, I don't want this to be an attack on people who are Democrat, because it's not. The first thing we have to do to get to common ground is you have to discard the self-righteous notion that just because we disagree with what you want, you're the good guy and we're the bad guy. And that goes both ways. We've got to get away from the idea that if we can't agree, that we have to fight. That's not a healthy way for society to run. And honestly, it's not running. Let's just be honest, it's not running. I mean, yeah, you still have electricity, you still have the internet, you still have all that stuff. But think about this. When was the last time you were happy about the situation the country was in? Really? When was the last time that you thought, boy, we're doing so well? For me, it's been at least 3 years. Now, I'm not saying that all was due to Trump. He helped our economy. He got gas going. He brought gas down. Yay, good for us. But the last time that I genuinely had hope, that I thought things were going well, was around 2019 before COVID. I saw an example of how much freedom we're willing to give up just to feel safe from a virus that no one's safe from. Because guess what? Eventually, the problem with being alive is that something's going to kill you. They set ordinances that weren't legal. They did things that were completely illegal. They changed voting law, and then after they changed voting law, they try to tell you that you couldn't fly without wearing a mask, which that's not a law, by the way. That's an ordinance. If there's been a law passed, they shouldn't be able to do that. They told you, they even tried, if you don't take this shot, we'll take your job away. And this is not a vaccine. We have to stop calling this thing a vaccine because it's not a vaccine. Vaccines prevent infection. COVID infects you whether you've had the shot or not. Look at the timeline. First, they told us masks won't do anything. Then they told us masks will help, but we told you they wouldn't so that you wouldn't buy them all up. Then they said masks do help and everybody has to wear one. Turns out most masks don't do anything, and the ones that do help just a little bit. Then they told us, hey, we've got this vaccine coming out. It's going to keep you from catching COVID. You take this shot, you will not catch COVID. It won't make you sick. It won't kill you. You will be perfectly fine. You can go back to life as normal if you'll just take this shot. So a lot of people, maybe not just for life to go back to normal, because they didn't want to get sick, went and took the shot. Now people start catching it that have been given the shot. And they go, oh, well, yeah, but if you hadn't had that shot, it'd have been much worse. But that's not what you said the shot did. You said the shot will keep me from getting the virus. I trusted you. I got the shot. I went back into society. I got the virus anyway. Well, yeah, but it stops transmission. It lowers the viral count. You won't give it to other people. You might get a little sick, but you'll be fine, and you won't give it to anybody else. Turns out that's not true either. It turns out you can give it to other people when you've had the vaccine. In fact, you give it to more people when you've had the vaccine because you don't think you can catch it to begin with. So there's line number 2. Then they come out and said, okay, well, we got these boosters, and these boosters will double your immunity. At this point, you're good. You won't catch it. You'll be fine. People are still catching it. 2 to 3 boosters later, people are still catching it. My wife has had it. She's had the shot. She had the booster. We both got COVID. She got sicker than I did. It doesn't work. And yet right now, even now, 2 years later, they're trying to pass legislation and law that says that they can take your job or keep you from getting on an airplane if you haven't had the shot. Why are we putting up with this? Why have we not, as a collective group, just stood up both sides of the aisle and said, no, no more? We've done what you asked 3 times. You've destroyed the economy. You've given an experimental drug to people that has had really no effect, let's be honest. And now you're telling us if we don't follow your commands, you're going to take our jobs away. You're going to take our security away or take our safety away. No. Why are we putting up with this? Why? You know why? Because we want to feel safe. This is ridiculous. Nobody wants to be scared of a disease. But there are a lot of diseases that can kill you. We don't shut down the country for them, folks. We just don't. We don't. We've lost our way somehow. Somewhere in all the fear of COVID and the racial injustices, which honestly I believe are grossly overstated, we've lost our way. And it is only getting worse because we've got one side, because it used to be, like I said, we had two groups of people who wanted this good for the country and they had different ideas on how to get there. Now it just feels like we have one group that's just desperately trying to hold things together and another group that seems determined to burn it all down. I've heard 3 Democratic representatives, elected representatives that swore to uphold the Constitution, say, spare me your constitutional right BS. I've heard we're going to pass this bill, and if the Senate filibusters this bill, then we will abolish the filibuster. And if the Supreme Court overturns this, then guess what? We're going to pack the court so they do what we want. First of all, you can't do any of that because you don't have the votes and you just can't do it. There's no legal way for you to do that right now. But that attitude is wrong. It's wrong. That attitude is what got us in this situation to begin with. That attitude is gimme what I want. If you don't want to give me what I want, you're evil, you're bad, and we're going to do it anyway. If we continue on that path, folks, it will not be good. If you think that state to state, city to city, neighborhood to neighborhood violence can't happen here because it hasn't happened here in a long time, look around. It's already happening. We had a judge get shot in the head because he was a conservative, executed in his own home. We have another guy trying to assassinate one of the Supreme Court justices. We got the White House saying that they don't care about the protests at the judges' homes, even though it almost killed one of them. You know why? Because they want to upweight liberal justices. Whether or not they think they're in the right That attitude has to go away. Gimme, 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 mine, 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 what I want, what I want, what I want. Now, if you've listened this far, you're probably wondering, what do I actually want? Here's what I want. I want my job secure. I want my wages to reflect my worth, and for that worth to be able to support me and my family. I want the borders freaking closed. Okay? Enough. There is a legal pathway to citizenship in this country. Do it the right way. I want the borders closed. I want our natural gas and oil reserves to start filling up instead of being emptied. I want us to export and not import our energy, our food. I want people to be able to buy baby formula for their children. And I don't want the guy who was holding on paycheck to paycheck to have to choose between green beans and carrots for his family. If a guy's working 40 hours a week, he should be able to buy green beans and carrots for his family, okay? And raising the minimum wage won't help. It won't. It'll increase inflation because all you do is devalue the dollar. That won't work. We have to increase the power of the dollar, and the only way we do that is by decreasing the national debt, getting a cap on this inflation. This is a long video. I apologize for that. Basically, what I want is I want to do my job and be left alone, right? The problem is that things have gotten so bad that I can't just sit and watch anymore. I've put posts up on Facebook all the time. I've never put a video up. I've never put a video on YouTube. I will probably put this on YouTube. It'll probably get banned. I'm sorry that you have to look at my face, number one. We have to start treating people as people. Good people should be treated like good people, regardless of skin color, regardless of political belief. And bad people should be treated as bad people. We've got to get a grip on it, guys. We've got to find a way. I know that it's very easy just to be angry. It's so easy just to look at what's going on in this country right now and just be angry. Just be furious. Your country's on fire. You can't afford gas. You can't afford food. The only way we're going to get a handle on that is by working together. That being said, as of right now, it is June 8th, 2022, and Joseph Biden is by far the worst president this nation has ever had. So, mull that over a little bit. And if you refuse to accept that, then we're doomed. Every decision he's made has screwed the country over. This has nothing to do with what side of the political aisle he sits on. Every decision he's made has screwed the country over. And if you look at people's surveys, most people believe that. So maybe it's time we start thinking that we should start picking people that are good for the job and not just the people that are on our side of the aisle. Or here's a stretch, maybe we should start picking people that are good at their jobs regardless of their race or creed or sex, as opposed to picking them because of that race, creed, or sex. It's just an idea. Anyway, you guys mull that over. And I just would like everybody to calm down just a little bit. Calm down. Everybody calm down. Let's not try to kill any more judges. Let's not shoot people that we disagree with. Unless, of course, they're trying to hurt you. In which case, I fully advocate that you should leave the force. Let's just calm down. Let's calm down and take a minute. And I honestly think that the bad stuff that's coming from the left, and again, not all stuff from the left is bad. I do think that the bad stuff from the left is going to get a referendum this November. It's not going to be good for you guys. And you're going to sit there and say it's all because of racism. No, it's because people can't buy gas, they can't buy food, and they don't want their children being taught about transgenderism at 5. Let's be honest, that's what it is. That's why Youngkin won, because he exposed a transgender thing that had been covered up. Okay? Now, I have nothing against transgender people at all. There's nothing wrong with being transgender. There's nothing wrong with being gay, straight, bisexual, transgender, whatever. It is a free country, and you should be whatever you need to be. But when you start screwing around with other people's children, you're opening a can of worms that you really don't want to get into. One of the dumbest political moves I've ever seen the liberals do is turn parents into a demographic who disagrees with them. And they've been doing that for 2 years now. That is the dumbest thing I've ever seen them do. And you're going to find out in November. Maybe, and I hope, maybe this election pushes everyone back to the middle a little bit. And maybe we start working on some common sense solutions to our problems. Anyways, if this did offend you, tough. Still a free country. If it didn't and it gave you food for thought, if it gets you to think just once about talking to somebody maybe a little different than yourself, good. Anyway, I'm going to bed. I'm exhausted. I'm angry. And I hope everybody does okay. You guys be safe.